Hey, discernment listeners, Twin Flames documentary. Let's continue watching and reacting.
For Jeff and Julia, how to structure their businesses so that they could pay the least amount of taxes possible.
I've got the solution.
Yes. What's that?
We're going to turn part of our company into a religion. And in this way, I don't have to pay people. I can just have volunteers.
Yeah, this illuminates a problem that is not just to cults, but to, I would argue, a lot of religious organizations, that they have special tax exempt, and maybe someone could convince me that it's for the greater good of society. I don't know. Of course, it's a problem here because it looks cynical, right? It doesn't look like he thinks this is actually a religion. He's just doing it to scam the government and make it so that he doesn't have to pay taxes, make it so that he makes more money, and makes it apparently so that he can exploit more of his cult members. Because, of course, when you have employees outside of these kinds of organizations, there are labor laws that will potentially come into play and punish you if you don't pay your employees, right? So there's that. But a broader question is, why are we as a people, as a country, why are we offering this benefit to just anyone who claims that? And I'm sure there's a lot of debate around this that I'm not aware of, but and maybe even movements to change this. But I don't know. It just seems like they're businesses, and it's fine that they're a business, a religion. Like if you're a local Catholic church or something, and at the very least, nonprofit business, right? I believe that's different. I don't know. Do you know?
Hi, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Julia. And welcome to our first ever Church of Union sermon.
Church tends to be really boring, and that's what we don't want.
When I first joined, it wasn't overly religious. There was some talk about God, but then it got more and more heavily God-centered.
And it potentially makes it so that you can control even more aspects of the members, like their spiritual beliefs and the afterlife, that sort of thing.
I got this really insane download, and I heard God speak to me in a very clear as day voice, the images of Jesus is the image of Jeff. That's the prophecy you've been looking for. It is not written.
Of course. So, who knows what Jeff will say to this, but I'm guessing he's not going to overlook this connection. He'll probably lean into it. So is that where this is headed? that he's the second coming?
It is in visual format. And I'm like, oh my God.
I pulled up a recent image of myself and put it next to that image.
Yeah, and if you know anything about history, and I have read and heard from a lot of experts who look into these kinds of things, not only experts in history, but experts in Christianity and religion, that they will say that we don't know what Jesus looked like. We just don't have any data about that. And any artist rendition of Jesus typically reflects the culture in which the artist is living. So in Anglo-Europe, you will find a very Anglo-European looking Jesus. In other parts of the world, you will find a Jesus that is drawn or painted to make Jesus look like the local population there. And we just don't know what Jesus looks like. But he does look like the Jesus that is depicted in the Anglo world in the United States. And so not only do you have Jeff and Shalia stepping into that silliness, but then you have the cult members who might fall for it because they haven't heard from the experts about what Jesus may or may not have looked like.
Those images were images of me. Not a Jewish guy from Israel, but a Euro guy with blue eyes and brown hair. The image of, the Christ was actually me, the second coming, not Jesus, the first coming.
I'm banging the Christ.
Wait, I lost the thread. I'm sort of curious if I can decipher what he's saying. It sounds like is he saying that the images of Christ are not actually necessarily an image of Christ, but they were like a precursor to him? Let's rewind.
Put it next to that image of, the supposed Jesus. And it's
Right. So he says the supposed Jesus, which I think is him actually knowing the experts, telling us that any depiction of Jesus isn't necessarily the way Jesus looked like.
those images were images of me. Not a Jewish guy from Israel, but a Euro guy with blue eyes and brown hair.
Yeah, it sounds like he's saying those images were not images of the actual Jesus. They're an image of me. Okay.
The image of, the Christ was actually me, the second coming, not Jesus, the first coming.
I'm banging the Christ.
Oh, I see what he's saying. He's saying that he is Jesus, but people were divinely inspired to paint the second coming Jesus, not the first coming Jesus. Okay.
Of course, a lot of us were turned off by that idea, but Jeff stated, well, that's just a block, and we're here to help heal this block that people have.
Yeah, that's another bad move. If you're trying to stay in business, and because there's a lot of things that he's doing that is successful and not likely to have a lot of scrutiny. The meal program, telling people that his program will help them find their twin flames, getting his members to give endorsements, that sort of thing. That is still sleazy and potentially cultish, but it's not necessarily going to raise a lot of red flags from members and from the outside. A lot of the members probably are religious. A lot of them probably are Christians and go to church of various different kinds. I'm just going to take a guess if he's appealing seemingly to a lot of Westerners. And so you are claiming that you're the second coming of Christ to a bunch of people who are probably being told by their religious leaders, or at least have in the past, that people who claim to be the second coming of Christ, in fact, I think it's written in some sort of prophecy of some sort in or outside the Bible, that the first person to claim they're the second coming of Jesus will actually be the Antichrist. I don't know if I have that right, but so it just raises this question. It's like, what is Jeff's purpose? Because if he was just in it for money, then he wouldn't necessarily do this to raise red flags and cause, massive. You can create a lot of cognitive dissonance for your members when you start contradicting 50 years of religious indoctrination, Or was it him knowing that if he was going to make even more money, then he had to control every aspect of them? I don't know. And other cult leaders will exhibit this behavior, that they're not in it just for the money. In fact, some might not be in it for the money at all. They're just in it for the power.
They incorporated the Church of Union as a nonprofit. So they have a nonprofit with for-profit businesses underneath.
Through my research, I found out that what Jeff and Julia were trying to do might be a problem. And Jeff told us that we had a block and that we were being too scared of.
Oh, another thing that I might not have shown the clip from was that she and her partner were named CEO of the organization. And what she was saying was, I wasn't really CEO. I was more of just a random administrator. I didn't really have power, but I was given that title. And it seems like it's being implied, or maybe I'm just inferring, that Jeff wanted plausible deniability regarding business choices. Maybe, he would have potential scapegoats to blame. And so he was creating an organization to protect himself legally, or I don't know.
These imaginary consequences.
And I will say that cult leaders will often do this. They will learn at some point that it's better if the parts of the business that are unseemly or would taint their reputation will be taken over by other people, so that they can just be this holy, elevated individual who can't be concerned with business, even though they very much are concerned with business. I mean, clearly from the internal meetings that are being recorded, Jeff is very concerned with business and making money.
He was in a new relationship with somebody else. A man.
He's avoiding the truth of who he is, his sexuality. He's not gay. He's not even meant to be with another man, You're his twin flame. He's supposed to be with a woman.
My goodness. Wow. Whoever leaked that all the recordings, whoever provided all these recordings, it's just, yeah, I really applaud that person, because if you heard someone say this, they were like, yeah, in this one class, they told someone that the person that broke up with them, the class member had someone that broke up with her, and Shalia and Jeff were claiming that, and even though this other guy, was now with a man, the leaders were saying that man not only needs to be with you because that's your twin flame, but he's not really gay. He's like living a lie. If you heard someone say that, you'd be like, come on, that's ridiculous. But then you see it.
Feminine women.
They said that my twin flame is feminine acting because I was taking his masculinity energy away from him.
My God, what are you supposed to do with that? That it's all her fault? I mean, one, that the guy isn't really gay or bisexual. What? And then two, he's only gay because you took away his masculinity. Like, my God.
Jeff and Shalia were making claims that, medical and psychological ailments can be completely 100% resolved using their exercises. It's claiming to be scientific, and it's just not. Nobody there is licensed to be psychologically treating anyone.
Okay, so I haven't been reacting for a while, but they have been reviewing how Jeff would become very irate and abusive to members and to coaches meaning people that he has employed to do his model with other people, and how they are also promoting this magical notion that this process, which I think is just completely centered around that mirroring process, which is where when you're upset and things aren't going well, that you just mirror it against yourself. So if you got fired from a job and you're angry because you feel like you were being mistreated, then you mirror it and you say that I'm mistreating myself. What? I mean, maybe sometimes it's related, but not everything. And so they're claiming, I think, that literally every problem can be solved with this stupid little exercise, which I think I said earlier in an earlier video that, yeah, there are times when that can be useful, but not in every situation, of course. And the way that Jeff poses this for people, if they don't go along with it, he becomes irate and abusive, and people get scared. And then you wonder, okay, well, if you're a cult member, one, you're desperate for his approval, and everyone else is desperate for his approval, so you're desperate for his approval for that. But you might also, even if a part of you thinks, I think I'm being indoctrinated into a cult, you might also worry about repercussions of, he has a lot of money, and when you have money, you can pay for lawyers, and if you're not rich, then you can't defend yourself, right? There's just kind of some fears. And of course, if he's your employer as well, if he's the one who pays your bills, because a lot of the coaches said that was the case, then economically you're in a bind. So there's that. But of course, he's starting to do what he did with his previous business that didn't work, in which he's claiming that he can solve all problems, not only just how to find the love of your life, but also how to solve any psychological problem, any self-helpy thing, and any physical problem. They were talking about how one of the former members, the woman who was being forced to be in a relationship with someone she didn't want to, that she was saying that her partner suffered from schizoaffective disorder, and that we saw some clips of Jeff telling her that, because she's like, I don't know what to do. And Jeff is saying, you just have to be a better partner. And if you're grounded and you're a better partner, then that will solve his schizoaffective disorder.
She was being led to work with Jeff directly to do MAP. And she ended up killing herself before she could get there.
Right. So they have been reviewing some communications or posts by one of the members on the Facebook page saying that she was struggling and she was being told to do the mirror exercise, just go back to the mirror exercise, and then she died by suicide. We don't know. It could the treatment that she was getting from, not treatment, not clinical treatment, but the way they were treating her, was that a factor in her killing herself? Could be, but we don't know. I mean, certainly it could very well be a factor. At the very least, if they didn't also recommend other things, then that's probably not being, but they're not a clinical service. They're just they're a religion, and they don't have ethical codes like we do in my field. Anyway, so we're learning that someone died, and that's something that often will tragically happen, that when you have these kinds of cults that start getting into psychology and propose ideas that are supernatural and unscientific, for some folks, it's a matter of life and death, and then you see the result. For everyone else, where it's not necessarily a matter of life and death, they're still being harmed, but it's not quite as noticeable as a death is.
The suicide was kind of spun in a way that she had chosen to stop doing the work.
Right. And that's what cult leaders and manipulative business owners will do in general, that whether it's some sort of alternative medicine person or some spiritual healer of some sort, or even therapists, honestly. You got to follow my program, and if it works, then it's because of me, and if it doesn't work, it's because of you. All right, well, let's adjourn there. Tune in next time if you care to continue watching me watch this show. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.